I read my medical records and I had spent so many years of my life feeling like death was the only option. I was extremely suicidal. And then I almost died. Like I cheated death here in this hospital. And so this fire burned in my belly. I said, okay, now's the time that I'm going to transform not only my life, but the lives of other people.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Lokumu Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again today. And today we have another powerful episode. Today's guest is someone whose story is not just powerful, but deeply real. Maddie is a mental health advocate, a peer support specialist, and the founder of a nonprofit organization focused on creating healing spaces for others. And what makes her perspective so impactful is that it's not just about being professional, but it's lived experiences. And also, Maddie has navigated serious mental health challenges and a life-threatening crisis that even forced her to rebuild her life from the ground up. Now she's using that journey to help other people understand what resilience actually looks like in real life, not only in theory. So I have the pleasure to welcome Maddie in Lokumu Podcast. Maddie, welcome to Lokumu Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me in that wonderful introduction. I'm very excited for our conversation today.
Amazing, amazing. I'm excited too. I'm excited. This is going to be a very powerful episode. But just before we go, I just want to ask you to give us a few, one or three words from yourself to introduce yourself in a more personal level, because I gave it sounds
Yeah.
best from the horse's mouth himself. So let's get into it.
I am a mental health advocate, peer support specialist, and I'm also a master's of social work student. But I think the most important thing about me is that I'm an empathetic, kind, loving person with deep rooted lived experience in the realm of mental health.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Sounds great. That was quick. I love it. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we're just gonna get right into it and without wasting time. So, you've lived through, many life experiences, that many people struggle with. It's not that easy for most people to understand what you've lived, what you've went through as a life experience. So, what did your lowest point actually feel like on a day-to-day level?
Well, to better understand why it was my lowest point, my mental health diagnosis is what's called schizoaffective bipolar type, which means I have symptoms of both schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And what that means is I have to battle mania, the highs, depression, the lows, and psychosis in between. And my lowest points of depression are I was extremely suicidal. I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was completely unmotivated. I was not living my life at all. I mean, I worked, but it was all I could do and it was a struggle. The lows of mania are when I have no impulse control and I'm making very reckless, dangerous decisions and people in my life have to intervene. And then when it comes to the psychosis, I'm seeing things that aren't real. I'm hearing things that aren't real. I'm feeling things that aren't real. I'm paranoid. I'm having delusions, which means thoughts of things that aren't real. So it varies depending what state I'm in, but what it's like is like losing control of myself, losing control of my life. I don't want to be sick. I don't want these things to happen to me, but sometimes it just kind of does. And I just wish the world was a safer, more understanding place for people like me when we are sick. We don't choose this. Um, I wish I wish I had the motivation to shower, or I wish I had the motivation to make good decisions, but sometimes that's just not the case.
Mm, mm. That's really um it's really deep. And also I just want to get into you in 2023 you faced a life-threatening crisis. So what specifically shifted in your mindset during that specific time that moved you
Yeah.
from survival mode to a more intentional healing?
So in 2023, my husband was my 24/7 caretaker. I was extremely manic and psychotic. I could not do anything, and they decided to change the medication, and I lost the ability to walk, talk, swallow, read, write, use a cell phone, and use a toilet. I couldn't use a toilet. And I was in home just laying in my bed dying. And until one day I said, take me to the hospital. And my husband took me and they said, she is dying. She's going to need life-saving supports. And I don't have too many memories of this.
Mm,
I was in the ICU for 2 to 3 weeks. Um, just heart failure, lungs collapse, brain damage, brain injury, fighting for my life. And I think the part where it began to, for me to understand that it was a time to change my life was when I came home about 2 weeks later when I learned to read again. I read my medical records and I had spent so many years of my life feeling like death was the only option. I was extremely suicidal. And then I almost died. Like I cheated death here in this hospital. And so this fire burned in my belly. I said, okay, now's the time that I'm going to transform not only my life, but the lives of other people.
wow, wow. That's really, you know, it's really touchy at the same time, and you also realize that there are many people actually right now too going that same experiences, and they're looking for
Yeah.
support, they're looking for help. They don't even know where to start. Some of them they don't even have parents, they are alone, and so it's not easy. It's really difficult. I resonate with that a lot. And was there a moment that you realized that, I can rebuild my life, What really triggered that realization of you saying that, okay, I'm going through these, but now I realize that I have the opportunity to rebuild my life.
I think it was when learned about my heart and lung damage and my brain injury. I said, okay, I've been laying in this bed for a month now and I'm not getting any better. So I got up and I walked for 30 seconds and I just took charge of my life and I made it baby steps. I'm going to walk for 30 seconds today. I had a lot of brain damage, so I tried like crossword puzzles. I couldn't do them very well. It was very frustrating, but I wanted to get better. So my husband, he was my only support system. Um, he would research things for my brain, things for my heart, things for my lungs, things for my body. And I took recovery, mental health recovery, as a full-time job. It was all I did. I was out of work, short-term disability. And one day, maybe I walked for a whole minute. And the next day, maybe I solved one of those lines on the crossword puzzle or word search. And every little step I took, I used it as motivation to reach something bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I had healed my heart and my lungs and my body and my mind, I said, okay, now it's time to really take charge of my life because I have spent so many years just surviving. But I want to thrive. I want to make a difference in the world. And so I was actually back at work 3 months after coming home, but that wasn't enough for me. So I created the nonprofit 4 months after coming home, and that's really where I began to thrive and change my life.
Mm, that's very powerful. That's really, really bold from you. And, you know, many people hear mental health, we just seems to throw it, everywhere and anytime. But most people don't actually, they don't fully understand what it looks like internally, you know. So I want to ask you, how would you describe the the invisible battles that someone might be facing even when they appear to be like fine?
I call it living in two worlds. So there's reality going on around you. People are talking to you, you're interacting with the world, but then there's a whole nother world going on in our minds that no one else can see.
Mm,
Maybe for me, you talk to me, but then I become paranoid, then I have a delusion, then I have anxiety, and I'm having to live in my mind, but then translate that back into the real world. So it's very draining. It can be a scary place in my head at times. Um, I think there's a lot of pain in people that people can't see. And that's whatever the mental health diagnosis may be. But because the world isn't always a safe place to talk about it, people hide it or isolate. And I wish there was more understanding in the world that we really don't know what someone else is going through unless they're telling you. So that's why I always say it's important to be kind because people are facing these deep internal battles in their own mind with their mental health. And your kindness, like I can say from my own experience, when people have been kind to me, what they didn't know is it gave me another chance to choose life.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the part that you mentioned, you just said now about kindness, that is actually what the world is struggling with. Even
Yeah.
now that we have technology, you know, we have a lot of invention happening, and we're almost moving into the golden age, but still people are missing kindness. I still don't get it. It's just that simple. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind to
Yes.
people. Kindness, most people actually misunderstand, if I can put it that way. They misunderstand kindness and weakness. Kindness is just about, you know, realizing and acknowledging other humans because they are like you. You are not special. I mean, you're not better than them. We're all the same. So kindness is just about realizing that I am like this uh next person, and what is happening to them can happen to me as well. And I will need somebody to be there for me. I'll need someone to stand for me. So it's just that simple. But yeah, it's the world that we're facing now. Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll overcome. But yeah, we overcome. So from your experience, because you've went through all of these experiences, um, what are some of the little signs that someone is mentally struggling, but they might not even know it themselves? Are there like some sign that we can tell, okay, this person is struggling mentally, but they don't know about it from your experience?
I think isolating is a big one. People who may be very like much like social butterflies who all of a sudden are stepping back from the social scene. That could be a sign they're starting to struggle. People not enjoying the things they typically enjoy. Um, People crying out for help in ways they may not understand as a cry for help, or maybe they were a very isolated person and now they're doing the opposite. I think I would look for like opposite behaviors. And then a lot of times mixed up emotions come out as anger. I know anxiety can come out as anger. So someone who may be lashing out in an angry way may not truly just be angry. They may be suffering with something that they aren't able to recognize yet.
Mm. Yeah, that's very important. It's almost not easy to, I'm gonna go back to the kindness again. It's not almost easy to realize that if you're not kind to anybody. Like right now, I work with people, and I don't treat them as, just people that I work with. I treat them as, people that I really, really, really care about. And if they fall into something right now, I have to be present. I have to be there for them. So it's just that kind of thing. And what you just mentioned is not easy for people who are not kind to realize that and to pick it up and say, this person might need help. So they'll feel like, okay, they'll be like, okay, so like isolation, like they'll be just like, let them be alone. That's what they want. That's how they would translate that. But someone who's kind, someone who care about other people, will actually want to find out why that person is isolating themselves. And so all of a sudden, um, how are they portraying this kind of behavior? So it just it goes to that level, to be kind. So
Yes, it does.
yeah. And I want to go into what are some of the common misconceptions about resilience that actually do more harm than good? Because I know some people, for them, it means, to be strong and to be um, independent and to be, to be alone, to do everything alone. So from your understanding and from your experience, what are some of the misconceptions that comes with resilience?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions with resilience, as far as like mental health, is that we're always perfect, we're always on, we're never going to have a symptom. But the thing is, recovery is like this: it's ups and downs and ups and downs, and we're going to have our good days and we're going to have our bad days. And it also doesn't mean that we can take the world on our shoulders and just never crumble. I heard this analogy one time for all my resilient people. If you put a kettle full of water on the stove on the heat and you leave it on the heat, what happens? The water boils out.
Mm,
But what happens if you keep the kettle on the heat? It catches fire. And people put and put and put on people who are resilient. But if we don't pour back into that kettle, whether it be through ourselves or through our community, then they're going to crash and burn. We need that self-care. I'm a very resilient person. I have cheated death. I have overcome serious mental illness. I have overcome childhood trauma. Um, but it doesn't mean that I'm not still a human being too, with thoughts, feelings, emotions, who deserves to be treated like we're talking about with kindness and not always have the world put on my shoulder.
mm, yeah. And that's really difficult, and you know it can be uh, it can cause other major issues in someone's life, because when we say somebody is resilient, is strong, we don't mean that person doesn't need support, or we don't mean that
Yes.
person don't need anybody. It just means that that person has the capacity to go as far as their, you know, uh, their life can allow them to go, until somebody or some kind of situation comes into the scene and help them get over whatever that they're going through. So being strong does not mean that somebody don't need help. So we have to be there for everyone. We have to be there for our people, for our family, for our friends, for anybody, even though, I mean, we've seen some of the resilient people, the renowned resilient people that still need help. And they also testify themselves. They say it out loud that in their journey, they were, able to overcome certain situation because of this and this and that. And you always hear that people were involved and some things were involved in their journey. So it's not only about, just being strong alone and, just get over everything alone. So I appreciate that you brought that up, and it's really makes sense. So I want to get to the next level. When someone is at the lowest, because we understand that motivation is often non-existent, like you feel like it's just over, you don't want to do anything, you don't want to, you feel like it's over. I have nothing left, and I'm not able to go anymore. So from your experience, what is the first realistic step that someone can take where they don't feel like, even have the energy to go and to just do better for themselves? What are like one realistic step that they can take as you did, right? So I want you to give maybe one or two or even one, that can help them, to say that, okay, I still have a chance and I can still go, you know.
I think it's taking it as small as possible, because when we have these big tasks, it's like overwhelming. And when we're unmotivated, it's like, I can't even climb that mountain. So, whatever task you're facing, for me, it was that I needed to heal my heart. So, I had to move. So, I said, just 30 seconds, just 30 seconds. There was points in my life where I didn't want to shower and brush my teeth. I was so depressed. So, I said, just 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. It's about making it small and achievable, and then celebrating that when you achieve it is the most important part. If you're unmotivated, maybe you're depressed, maybe you're in a low, just taking a breath is enough sometimes to be celebrated. Reaching out for help is okay. There's nothing wrong with reaching out for help, getting a support system. So I think it's dependent upon what goal you're trying to achieve. But just make it small, attainable, and then celebrate that you did it.
That's very important. That's something that actually um would then give you motivation by you celebrating,
Yeah.
that particular step that you did. And actually, I did it. You acknowledge that you were able to accomplish it. That's what's gonna give you motivation when you don't have any. So that's really important. And yeah, it's all it takes, that 1 second or 1 minute or 10 minutes to just be like, okay, I thank myself, So yeah, that's what it is. Very important. So everybody out there, if you're listening right now and you don't have motivation, it just takes that one step. I know you're sitting right there, you feel like, okay, what is the reason of me doing it? I'm not getting anything in return, I'm not getting result. But that one thing, if you stack them together over a couple of days or 10 days, a week, it's something huge. You would be surprised on how advanced you'll be by just taking those little steps. Maddie is here as a living testimony because she took those small steps and now she can testify that, I'm now finally I can stand, and talk about all of this. And then
Mhm.
she even ran an organization to help people do that. This is so amazing. It proved that action is responsible for all reality. I have it on my book, Mental Toughness, Unbreakable Mind, on the first page of my book. Action is responsible for all reality. If you don't take action, nothing will change. So thank you for bringing that up, Maddie. I appreciate it. So
Mhm.
moving to the next uh, question that I wanted, you mentioned that, having to relearn basic functions. Did you mentally cope? Like, how did you mentally cope with starting over from the scratch without feeling defeated?
That was difficult because in the beginning I felt very defeated. I just knew I was dying. I laid in bed for a few weeks, just sobbing, begging to end the pain. But when I read my medical records and learned what happened to me, I was like, maybe I can get better. And then I had to relearn walking, talking, swallowing, reading, writing, cell phones, toilets, everything. And it was overwhelming. It was extremely overwhelming. And I was looking for help along the way, but I wasn't getting any support. So I had to really do it myself. So like for example, I got pen and paper and I just practiced writing my name. I didn't have audio of how I sounded before,
Mm.
but I just said the same words over and over and over. And it was exhausting it made me feel down because I just wanted to be better. But it was really like these building blocks for creating the me that I never was before and creating the me I had always wanted to be. I didn't like my life before my crisis in 2023. I didn't like who I was, but slowly relearning these skills, I was like, well, maybe I'm going to try to do this a little bit different than before. And maybe I'm going to try to do this a little different than before. And now I've created a person who I love, admire, I feel confident about. It was not easy. It was overwhelming, but I did it, and it just makes me more proud of the person I am today.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I agree with that. And can you walk us through maybe a practical bad day protocol on, like, what should someone actually do step by step on days when, they feel like everything is just overwhelming, they feel super overwhelming? What are those, maybe a step by step guide on how, um, to actually, you know, uh, stand and go about a bad day kind of, you know.
sometimes our motivation when we're doing these things can have our brains on like level 1000, right? Like where our brains are spinning, but our bodies are not moving. So sometimes we have to ground ourselves. And
Yeah,
great ways to ground ourselves are like breathing exercises. So inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6 out of your mouth. Another great grounding exercise is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's using your senses. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can hear, 1 thing you can taste in any order. And doing activities like that will ground you back down. And then making a list of what you need to do in small, achievable steps. And just choose one. Choose one for the day. And once you achieve it, celebrate it. And then, it's all about slow forward momentum. I think what you're talking about is people who may be like stuck in a rut or depressed and are overwhelmed. And so when you're that overwhelmed, it can be hard to get started at all. So just create an environment at home that is more soothing. That can help as well, like aromatherapy, herbal teas, make your house like a spa. Just try to self-care in there with things like that a little bit because we have to pour into ourselves, like I was saying earlier. Because when we're that down, we may not feel confident like we can achieve these things. So the more you pour into yourself along the way while you're taking these baby steps and doing your grounding techniques and making your list and doing it one at a time, the easier it'll get.
amazing, amazing, amazing. Perfectly said. And you know, I also just want to bring it down to funnel it a little bit. So what are the 2 to 3 daily habits or practices that have had the biggest impact on your healing journey?
Um, Meditation and yoga in the morning was a big one for me. Adequate sleep is the most important for me. My sleep hygiene, making sure I give myself the time to get 8 hours of sleep because that's what works for me. Staying hydrated, healthy foods, exercise. These principles together were the basis of my recovery. Um, and they were the building blocks. And now I still do them every day, and I incorporate a strict routine in the morning and a strict routine at night. But you've got to find what building blocks work for you. But I definitely recommend, sleep, hydration, healthy food, exercise, these types of things to get you started.
Yeah, perfect, perfectly said. And how can someone build resilience before a crisis hit? Not just, in response to one, but to actually build a system or a way or anything that would then help them build resilience and actually stand strong when that particular crisis hit in their lives.
I think part of that is having a community around you, a support network. Because when we're in crisis, we may need other people to support us. And that doesn't have to necessarily be family, that could be friends, coworkers, professionals, to help us lean and bend and sway on while we're in crisis, taking it one moment at a time and remembering that we've been through a lot of hard things in life and we can get through one more if you just take it 1 second at a time. The act of mindfulness, living in the moment. We can't go backwards and think about what it used to be. And we definitely can't go forwards and worried about what may be coming. We can live in the now and live with what we're faced at with in this very single moment.
Yeah, very important. And that's also brings me to understand that community also does play a huge role in that. I mean, like you have to have a community that cares about these kind of things and bringing it down to you again. As a support specialist, what is something that you've seen consistently help people shift their mindset over time?
Um, Turning their negative self-talk into positive self-talk, which is hard to do in the beginning. A lot of times we're hearing that replay in our head of, I'm no good, I can't do this, I'll never be whatever it may be. But with the help of a community, a peer support specialist, a professional, or just yourself with your own resiliency, you know, practicing your affirmations. So when you hear a negative, speak it out loud. Say something positive about yourself. Put sticky notes in your house. Write it on your mirror. Um, Journal it in your journal. Change your negative into a positive, and that can really help. I think that's a great starting place to change our mindsets and to build resiliency as well.
Yeah. That's pretty powerful, and a lot of people take it for granted. Just saying things out loud, labeling things is one of the powerful things that you can do for yourself, and you have that power. Your mind has that system that almost like we cannot understand it, but it works like magic. When you label something, your mind actually acknowledges it. You might not see it physically, you might not feel the 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 result right away, but the fact that you label something, knowing it, putting it into your awareness is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And it works like magic. Like you don't take it for granted. It works, it works, it works. So you've turned pain into purpose. What does healing with purpose actually means to you?
Healing with purpose means it's not just my recovery, it's my community's recovery because my community gave to me, they poured into me, they healed me, and I want to give that back to other people. So, I'm not cured, but I'm in recovery, I'm healed, and I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through. So, my life's mission with my peer support work, with the nonprofit, with my master's in social work when I become a social worker is just to help others heal. I'm a firm believer that service work, volunteer work, giving back to others is an important part of recovery, mental wellness, being a good person. And that's just my life mission. Like I kind of made a deal with myself when I was recovering. Like if I can get through this, I'm just gonna do what I can so that no one else may have to face this again. And it keeps me healthy when I'm working with individuals who are in mental health crisis or needing mental health support and I can help them. It's reminding me where I was, reminding me what I've been through, and then giving me a purpose to continue to be in recovery.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I love that. I love that. I love that you're in a mission of helping people and that it gives you purpose and it gives you
Yeah.
happiness and it's that's one of the priceless thing that you can have as a human being. I love that. I appreciate that and I commend you to continue doing that because the
Mm.
world need that most. I mean, many people are out there, maybe they just watching us now and they hear what you say. It's such a huge relief, even though you're not able to help them directly from where you are, but it just feels, it's relieving to hear that there are people out there who actually care about other people and they're willing to help and give out their all. That's amazing. That's amazing. So, as we're approaching to the end, for someone who's listening, who's, you know, who who is feeling stuck right now in their current situation, what would you want them to understand about their future?
Today is just one moment in a lifetime. You may feel stuck today, but that doesn't have to be your forever. So take that small step and remember that you matter, you're important, you're worthy, you're loved, you have a purpose. Um, so just take that baby step, take that motivation and create the future that you want to have.
Amazing, amazing. And if you could give one um, or let me say one grounded, practical piece of advice to someone struggling silently right now, what would that be as we close?
There's no shame in asking for help if you are struggling silently, whether that be a friend, a family member, a mental health professional, a neighbor, a teacher, anybody. There's no shame in talking about your mental health. There's no shame in saying, I need help. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong to be able to say something like that. So reach out for support because I'm sure there's a lot of people around you who are willing to give it and they want you to feel better.
Amazing, amazing. Wow, we can go on and on. This is a powerful topic, you know. But thank you so much, Maddie, for
Thank
being
you.
here. Amazing message. You brought a very, very powerful message, and I'm super excited that people are gonna watch it. They're gonna get so much value, and they're gonna feel so much relief and happy. So thank you so much, and you're doing great with your organization. Please continue doing the great work that you do. And everybody listening, we're gonna leave Maddie's details on the show notes. You can check her work out and if you want to connect with her, do so. Feel free to
Yeah.
do so. And yeah. All right. So as we coming to an end, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in again to this powerful episode. We want to close now. Maddie, do you have anything that you want to add for the closing part for anybody that's listening?
I would just like to say if you struggle with mental illness, you are not weak. You are not less than. You are truly an inspiration to people like me because you're a superhero. And what I mean by that is you have to overcome so many extra obstacles every day and you still do it. You still wake up every morning. And I'm proud of you and you are amazing.
Amazing, amazing. That was a message for Maddie. Thank you so much. Your message has landed nicely and correctly to the recipient. As we close, I would like you to share some of your contacts where people can reach out to you, or your website, your email, your contact. Um, yeah,
My website is jesupport.org. My email is on there, but I can share it as well. It's Maddie Andrews, Maddie Andrews at jesupport.org. All of our nonprofit socials are on our website. You can also find my personal socials where I advocate, Maddie Andrews. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or if you just need a listening ear, I'm here for you.
amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Maddie, for coming on the podcast.
Yes.
Appreciate your time. And that was a very powerful episode. And everybody out there, thank you for tuning out once again. And contact Maddie. Feel free to ask her any question you would like to ask, and she will always be present to help you out. Thank you so much. That's for me, and we'll see you on the next one.